Hi, Kevin Lentz, the pastor here of Trinity in Badger Ranch. Thank you for joining me. We've been looking at Jonah chapters 1, 2, and 3 the last 3 weeks, how Jonah ran away from God. God finally got his attention, so Jonah did go to the city of Nineveh, preached to them, and they repented. So that brings us now to the last chapter of the book of Jonah, chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Jonah was greatly displeased and became angry. He prayed to the Lord, "O Lord, is this not what I said when I was still at home? That is why I was so quick to flee to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity." So Jonah is making it very clear that he knew God was gracious and merciful, and he was. So Jonah just kind of being a little bit upset with God here because Jonah feels he didn't have to go to Nineveh, but God did have purpose for him to go there, proclaiming the word to them. So that's what they could repent from on the truth. Verse 3 then is said where he says, "Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." Jonah really took it, to extremes. Like, God, I told you I didn't want to go. Now, things turned out well for them, but not for me as far as I'm concerned. Of course, he was wrong. Now he's like, "Take my life, Lord. I'm just not happy here anymore. I'm done. I'm tired of it." And of course, the Lord has a response. Verse 4, the Lord replied, "Have you any right to be angry?" I think we can all ask ourselves that question if we're ever angry about God concerning the various situations or circumstances in our lives. God is in charge, He's in control. Sometimes things don't go our way. Sometimes we get upset with our lives. Doesn't mean God doesn't love us, doesn't mean God isn't there for us. It just means that we need to be patient, trust in the Lord, see what He has working out for us, and give thanks, and He's very close to us. Jonah had no right to be angry to God. So verse 5 then, Jonah went out and sat down at a place east of the city. Then he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, waited to see what would happen to the city. I think he went to that place to go see if God would destroy Nineveh. I'm going to take this place outside of town, just kind of enjoy my place where I am, and have God watch God destroy the city, because he still had this anger against the Lord. But then in verse 6 we read, "Then the Lord provided a vine and made it grow up over Jonah to give shade for his head, to ease his discomfort, and Jonah was very happy about the vine. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the vine so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, 'It would be better for me to die than to live.'" So there you again have kind of complaining Jonah again, where God sees Jonah in that shelter he'd built for himself outside the city, and God provides even greater comfort. A vine provides some shade, leaves on it, I'm sure, so he was very comfortable. But then the next day, God provided a worm that would destroy that vine. So Jonah had it good for a while, and then things weren't going well for him as far as he was concerned. But that whole vine, worm situation thing is a greater illustration what God has for the city of Nineveh. And so we read that in verse 9, God said to Jonah, "Do you have a right to be angry about the vine?" "I do," he said. "I am angry enough to die." But the Lord said, "You have been concerned about this vine, though you did not tend to it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and many cattle as well. Should I not be concerned about that great city?" The illustration is made that Jonah was so taken and worried about this vine, which is really quite worthless when compared to 120,000 people. Jonah's like, "I love this vine. Oh, you took it away from me, Lord. Now I can't stand you doing that." And God's like, "Jonah, the big picture is I love the people of Nineveh all alone. You might not have. You're acting like you didn't. I've always loved them. I was always going to spare them because they are my people, my children. So I'm going to take care of them." And so Jonah hopefully learned the lesson from the vine that when we make such a big deal about little things, maybe God is more concerned about the bigger things, his people whom he loves. Again, the book of Jonah is a great book. If you have not read it, read the whole book. It's 4 chapters. They're pretty short. A great lesson is taught there about how we trust in God to provide for his people and how we should be the repentant people, how God takes care of us. God bless you and talk to you again. Bye-bye.